Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Yashodanandana Gajananandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Srivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Srivaradhari Yashodanandana Gajananandana Jai.
Jai Om Vishnu Pavana Hamsa Prabhu Chakacharya Malai Chakra Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shiva Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. O Premanandi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayana Namaskritya
Nam Chaiva
Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Bodhayamudhirayat. For reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God and Narayan, unto Narayan, who is the supranational being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. So I'm going to read from the first canto, the second chapter. Text number 6. There's a lot of very famous, important verses in this chapter. So I'm just going to start with this one and maybe read into. Does anyone have books or phones or way of? What?
We'll put it on the project. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, so in the meantime, while they're putting on, you can do the word. We'll do one word at a time. Sa, Vai, Sam,
Parodharmo
Yato,
Yato
Bhaktir, Anoksaje, Ahaituki, Pratihata, Yayatma, Suprasidati. We'll try it without it for now. Savai Pumsam Parodharmo,
Savai Pumsam Parodharmo
Yato Bhaktir Anoksaje,
Yator Bhaktir Adhokshaje
Ahaituki Apratihata, Yayatma Suprasidati,
Yayatma Suprasidati
Savai Pumsam Parodharmo,
Savai Pumsam Parodharmo
Yato Bhaktir Anoksaje,
Yato Bhaktir Adhokshaje
Ahaituki Apratihata,
Ahetuki Aparihata
Yayatma Suprasidati,
Yayatma Suprasidati
Savai Pumsam Parodharmo,
Savai Pumsam Parodharmo
Yato Bhaktir Anoksaje,
Yato Bhaktir Adhokshaje
Ahaituki Apratihata,
Ahetuki Aparihata
Yayatma Suprasidati.
Yayatma Suprasidati.
Okay, so the way, I mean, I don't know if it's that important because nowadays people do things differently. But when Prabhupada was here, after they chanted, then the men chanted, and then he would say the ladies, and then the ladies chanted. So I'm just like kind of mechanical, like to do things the way it was done when Prabhupada was here. I don't know if he exactly set it up that way, but that's the way it was done. And so if we can do it like that, so if the men would like to chant now.
Savai Pumshan Parodharmo,
Savai Pumsam Parodharmo
Yato Bhaktir Adhokshaje,
Yato Bhaktir Adhokshaje
Ahaituki Apratihata,
Ahetuki Aparihata
Yayatma Suprasidati,
Yayatma Suprasidati
Savai pumsham paro dharmo.
Savai pumsam paro dharmo.
Yato bhaktir adokshaje.
Yato bhaktir adokshaje.
Ahaituki apratihata.
Ahetuki aparatihata.
Yayatma suprasidati.
Yayatma suprasidati. Savai pumsam paro dharmo.
Savai pumsham paro dharmo.
Yato bhaktir adokshaje.
Yato bhaktir adokshaje.
Ahetuki aparatihata.
Ahaituki apratihata.
Yayatma suprasidati.
Yayatma suprasidati.
Savai pumsam paro dharmo.
Savai pumsam paro dharmo.
Yato bhaktir adokshaje.
Yato bhaktir adokshaje.
Apratihata.
Ahetuki aparatihata.
Yayatma suprasidati.
Yayatma suprasidati.
Savai pumsam paro dharmo.
Savai pumsam paro dharmo.
Yato bhakti radokhaja.
Yato bhaktir adokshaje.
Ahaituki apratihata.
Ahetuki aparatihata.
Yayatma suprasidati.
Yayatma suprasidati.
Savai pumsam paro dharmo.
Savai pumsam paro dharmo.
Yato bhakti radokshashe.
Yato bhaktir adokshaje.
Ahetuki pratihataha.
Ahetuki aparatihata.
Yasmana suprasiddhati.
Yayatma suprasidati.
Saha, that, why, certainly,
Pumsam,
for mankind,
for mankind,
paraha,
Paraha,
sublime,
sublime,
dharmaha,
Occupation,
yataha,
Yataha, by which
bhakti,
Bhakti,
devotional
service,
adhokshaje,
Adhokshaje,
unto the transcendence,
Ahetuki,
causeless,
Aparihata, unbroken, Yaya, by which Atma, the self, Suprasidati, completely satisfied.
Translation: the supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the Transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Purport. In this statement, Sri Sutta Goswami answers the first question of the sages of Naimisharanya. The sages asked him to summarize the whole range of revealed scriptures and present the most essential part so that fallen people, or the people in general, might easily take to it. So, their first question, to summarize the scriptures and tell us the essence. This is the beginning. This is Naimisharanya. Kali Yuga is just beginning, and their sages have gathered. This was when Ramahasan Sutta was there, sitting, and Balaram came, and everyone stood up when Lord Balaram came except for Ramahasan Sutta, because he was sitting on the Vyasa sign. Generally, when you're sitting on the Vyasa sign, if some guest comes in, a sannyasi comes in, you don't have to get up, for obeisances. But if the Supreme Lord comes in, it's probably a good idea. Ramahasan Sutta didn't do that, so Balaram picked up a piece of kusha grass. It was his kusha weapon. Normally, a piece of kusha grass is not really a weapon, but with Balaram, in the hands of Balaram, even a piece of kusha grass could be a weapon. And he poked him in the head with it, and he killed him, and then, interesting how the sages gave him benedictions for a long duration of life. So they wanted Lord Balaram to keep all their benedictions intact, but not to bring him back to life, because that was his desire. So he transferred it, because the son is the representative of the father, so he transferred those benedictions to the son. Sutta Goswami. And Sutta Goswami, he heard from Sukadeva Goswami, so therefore he's speaking this. But this is a pretty important thing. You know, I don't have time. Even once Srila Prabhupada was asked by a man in somewhere in Europe, I don't remember. If I was going to guess, I'd say France, but I'm not positive. But he was like a big military man. And he asked Srila Prabhupada, the Bhagavad Gita, he said, I can't read the whole Bhagavad Gita, it's too much. What chapter? If I could read only one chapter, what chapter would you suggest? And Srila Prabhupada says, chapter 7. If I remember correctly, but I'm pretty sure. But we can confirm it with Jiva when we see her next.
If we remember.
Right, if you remember. Well, you should remember if you don't trust me. But so the point is, sometimes you can't study everything. If I can only study one thing, for instance, the Vedas is so huge. How can we study the Vedas? You know, the Bhagavatam is, you know, well now it's 18 volumes, like 1,000 pages each. Originally it was 60 volumes, 400 pages each. I don't know if that equals, but maybe the print is smaller now, but that was the original plan. So I can't read everything, even the Bhagavatam, and that's just nothing compared to the Vedas. The Bhagavatam, it's just like, it's the essence of the Vedas, it's the same thing. It's the cream of the Vedic literature. So instead of reading all the Vedas, you can just read the Bhagavatam. And of course, Srila Vyasadeva, after compiling all the Vedas, he was still not satisfied. You know, sometimes we might generally when we do a lot of service, we really feel good, feel satisfied. But we may not because we're lacking something. We did something wrong, and we can feel this. So we want to know what it is I did wrong. So Srila Vyasadeva, after writing all the Vedic literatures, was not satisfied, then what you should do is you approach your spiritual master. I did everything, and still I don't feel good. There's something I'm doing wrong, and I don't know what it is. And he said, it's because you haven't sufficiently broadcasted the glories of the Lord. You wrote all these things about how you can be healthy, how you can get a nice wife, how you can get money, you can worship this God and that God, and you get all these nice things, but you haven't sufficiently broadcasted the glories of the Lord. That's the real purpose of the Vedas, a little bit here and a little bit there, but someone reading the Vedas will not come to that conclusion because it says so many other things. So then he wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the cream of the Vedic literature, the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge, and he was satisfied after doing that, and that's what this is. And then he spoke it, Sukadeva Goswami heard it, and then from Sukadeva Goswami, Sutta Goswami heard it, and now he's speaking it. So what's the most important part of all the Vedas? The Vedas prescribe two different types of occupation for the human being. One is called the pravritti marg, or the path of sense enjoyment, and the other is called the nivritti marg, or the path of renunciation. The path of enjoyment is inferior, and the path of sacrifice for the supreme cause is superior. The material existence of the living entity is a diseased condition of actual life. So we have a material body, we should immediately consider we're diseased. It's like if you have certain symptoms, you have all these marks all over your body, you got fever, you can see I'm diseased. So when you're diseased, especially if you don't know exactly what the disease is or what to do, then you go to a doctor. So similarly here, we have a material body, we have to go to a spiritual doctor, because this is a symptom. If I have a material body, I'm diseased. there's something wrong with me. So I have to approach a spiritual master or a spiritual doctor to find out what do I do to get rid of this disease condition. Of course, even with the material body, we can become free from this disease because it's a state of consciousness. And then, of course, once we leave this body, we don't take another material body. And there's the exception that someone, a Shaktivesh avatar, he may have a material body, but his body is not considered material because it's used 100% in Krishna's service, just like an iron rod put in fire develops the qualities of fire. And even though it's an iron rod, it now takes on all the qualities of fire, and it's just as good as fire. You touch the iron rod to a piece of paper, the paper begins to burn. So similarly, the Shaktivesh avatar, the devotee who comes down to preach Krishna consciousness to help the fallen souls, his body is not material, should not be considered material. Although it has the same effects as material, gets old and it dies, but it's considered spiritual because it's used completely in the service of the Lord. So the material existence of the living being is a diseased condition of actual life. Actual life is spiritual existence, or Brahma Bhuta existence. While life is eternal, where life is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. Material existence is temporary, illusory, and full of miseries. There is no happiness at all. So someone may argue with that. There's no happiness, I'm happy, or something. I experience happiness, but it's not considered real happiness because it's illusory in the sense that it's temporary. It's there and it's gone. Where is that happiness? It's gone. It's not real. So we, of course, are still, because of our conditioned life, because of our material body and how many lives and bodies we've had in the past, try to enjoy and think that I can be happy by some temporary sense gratification. There is no happiness at all. This a pure devotee sees. What we consider happiness is not really happiness. Real happiness is actually experiencing the surrendering to Krishna. We surrender to Krishna, then we're actually happy. We surrender to the spiritual master, then we're actually happy. That's the only thing that can bring real happiness. And unfortunately, we're still in this illusion, trying time after time after time to enjoy this material world. And if anything, it's called Champala Sukha, or flickering happiness. It's not real because it's flickering. There it's gone, there it's gone. Real happiness never ends. There is just the futile attempt to get rid of the miseries, and temporary cessation of misery is falsely called happiness. So now I'm not suffering for a few minutes. Oh, that's happy. Oh, I feel so good. I'm happy. It's like a disease. You're sick and you get better. You feel strong. Wow, I feel great. Because you're not diseased for a little bit. That's not real happiness. Therefore, the path of progressive material enjoyment, which is temporary, miserable, and illusory, is inferior. So the path of material enjoyment is temporary. That I think everyone could agree with. Miserable. Why is it miserable? I think I'm enjoying. Well, because a very little bit of enjoyment I have to get, then I have to suffer so much misery. It doesn't come for free. There's a price. There's a price you have to pay. You know, even the material scientists, for every action is a reaction. So when I have to go through so much to enjoy, I have to pay. First of all, I have to go through so much. It's just like if I want to buy something, I have to work so hard. I have to do so much. So that's a price I'm paying for what it is I get. And happiness is the same thing. For the happiness I get, there is a price I have to pay. So it's temporary, miserable, and illusory is inferior. But devotional service to the Supreme Lord, which leads one to eternal, blissful, and all-cognizant life. All-cognizant, conscious of everything. Is called the superior quality of occupation. Everyone has to work, everyone has to serve. So, you want to pick who to serve where I can be the happiest. You know, you serve your boss and he gives you some money, it makes you a little happy. Serve your wife, she makes you a nice prashadam. Then you don't eat. But you serve Krishna, you're the happiest. And it's funny because you serve Krishna and externally you may not be seemingly so happy. When Prabhupada came here, he's serving Krishna, trying so hard for about a year. He had a pretty miserable condition. You know, if you looked at it externally, you wouldn't consider him being happy. But he's still happy and satisfied because he's fully engaged in serving Krishna, unmotivated, no material motivation. Unmotivated doesn't mean there's no spiritual motivation. Spiritually, there was motivation. He wanted to please his spiritual master. But materially, there was no material motivation for what he was doing. He didn't want to become rich. He didn't want to get, want followers. He wanted followers not for following him, to follow Bhakti Siddhanta. He didn't care for any of these external things. That wasn't his motivation. Even ourselves, why are we motivated? Why do I want to surrender to Krishna? Is anyone purely motivated to surrender to Krishna? I want to be happy. I want to go back to the spiritual. That's unmotivated. But that's okay. Whatever motivates us to surrender to Krishna is good. We're not pure. Eventually we'll come to the point where it doesn't matter if I'm here in the material world. Like Lord Chaitanya didn't care. I don't care if I'll take birth after birth after birth as long as I'm serving you. And those people who feel that way, genuinely feel that way, we might say that. I don't care. But I do care. But we might say it. But those who really say it and mean it, they really mean it, they 100%, they're already in the spiritual world. They're not in the material world. Even though their body may be in the material world, their consciousness is not. Consciousness is absorbed in Krishna. And when it is, when you're fully cognizant, then we can be fully joyful. And even fully joyful doesn't mean you're like the clown in the circus with a big smile. He's fully joyful. That's not being fully joyful. Fully joyful, you're fully satisfied. And the only suffering that you have is seeing the suffering of others. That's the only thing. Your own suffering is nothing. No matter how much material suffering you go through, that's nothing. It doesn't bother you in the least. But it does bother you when others are suffering. So that's why Srila Prabhupada has written so many books so that we can distribute these books to relieve the suffering of others. And it's really nice because we have gotten to a position in our life where we're beginning to surrender to Krishna. And we see that when we do that, it really does make us happy. And it's the only thing that makes us happy. Anything else that makes us happy is an illusion. We're an illusion. If you think about it, it's not real happiness. But because Krishna consciousness is helping us, we have to try to pay that debt back to our spiritual master. And the way to do that is by helping others. By distributing these books is the best way. You can also preach. But Prabhupada said, what will your half-hour talk is going to do? Then they forget about it. But if you give them a book, then they have it. They can read it. They can go over it. So if you go and meet somebody and tell them about Krishna, that's nice. But better, after telling them about Krishna, you give them a book. Sell them a book. Don't just give it. They give something, then it has more value. This is some, Lord, which leads one to eternal blissful and all cognizant life, is called the superior quality of occupation. This is sometimes polluted when mixed with the inferior quality. For example, adoption of devotional service for material gain is certainly an obstruction to the progressive path of renunciation. Okay, so I don't think anybody here is coming to Krishna consciousness for material gain. If I do this, I'm going to get more money. I hope there's nobody doing that. I doubt that. We might be doing it for other motivation because we're not happy and we want to be happy. That's okay. But if you're actually doing it, like even if you're doing it for material gain, that I'm going to surrender to you, give me some. But if you're doing it in a sense where I'm gonna do all this service so I can get paid more money from the temple, you're really an illusion. So we shouldn't want to get material gain from devotional service. But even if we do it, there's another verse where even if you want material things, still you should surrender to Krishna. Better you go to Krishna even for material things. And sometimes we may pray to Krishna for material things, but at least we're going to Krishna for it. Renunciation or abnegation for ultimate good is certainly a better occupation than enjoyment in the diseased condition of life. Diseased condition, it's really nice. How do you enjoy when you're diseased? You try to enjoy it, you can't. You're just too sick, too much pain. You want to eat something nice, and then when you're eating it, then you get this reaction. You have to go to the bathroom. Diseased condition. So such enjoyment only aggravates the symptoms of the disease and increases its duration. Just like poison ivy. You get poison ivy, and when you scratch it, it feels really, really good. Anybody here ever have poison ivy? No? Indian people got poison ivy? Okay. It's really, really, really bad that it itches so intense, and you try to tolerate the itch, and then finally you give in, you start scratching, and the feeling is so wonderful. But then it flares up more, and it gets worse, and it just makes things worse, even though temporarily it feels good. And if you get it really bad, you really have to go to the doctor, and you got to get some really strong. Usually they prescribe steroids, which is not good for you, but it really works to get rid of the poison ivy. So anyway, the disease. So you try to enjoy the disease condition, and then you just suffer more. It makes the disease worse. Therefore, devotional service to the Lord must be pure in quality. Example, without the least desire for material enjoyment. So we're not doing it for material enjoyment. We shouldn't do it for material enjoyment. I'm doing this so that I can enjoy better materially. One should therefore accept the superior quality of occupation in the form of devotional service of the Lord without any tinge of unnecessary desire, furtive action, and philosophical speculation. This alone can lead one to perpetual solace in his service. So we shouldn't want anything material or even desire philosophical speculation. So it's hard to, sometimes we may have some material desires and we still engage in devotional service. But there's two words here, ISKCON pratihata, unmotivated and uninterrupted. But we can certainly see that our devotional service becomes interrupted. So we can work very eagerly on uninterrupted devotional service. Try to have your devotional service not interrupted. When it's interrupted, to stop and get back and hear him chant again. So this only can lead one to perpetual solace in his service. We have purposely denoted dharma as occupation because the root meaning of the word dharma is that which sustains one's existence. So what sustains one's existence? So actually, your occupation sustains you. You work, you get money, and you can live. So one meaning of dharma is that which sustains one's occupation. So there's another meaning of dharma is that which cannot be taken away. We've heard that. And just like the sweetness of sugar. You can't take away the sweetness of sugar. You can get disease with jaundice and you may not taste the sweetness of sugar, but sugar is always sweet. So that which sustains one's existence or its occupation. A living being's sustenance of existence is to coordinate his activities with his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Krishna is the central pivot of living beings, and he is the all-attractive living entity or eternal form amongst all other living beings or eternal forms. Interesting how we see some form and it's really attractive form, but that would be like really horrible compared to if we actually saw Krishna. You know, if Krishna walked in after we see this other form, there would be no comparison. It says that even the women on the heavenly planets are so more attractive. We see the most beautiful woman on earth, and compared to the woman on the heavenly planets, there's no comparison. And the woman on the heavenly planets compared to the woman in the spiritual world, there's no comparison. And then Krishna is more attractive than all of them. So if we actually saw Krishna, there would be no attraction to anything else. That's all we want. He is the all-attractive living entity or eternal form amongst all of the living beings or eternal forms. Each and every living being has his eternal form in the spiritual existence, and Krishna is the eternal attraction for all of them. Krishna is the complete whole, and everything else is his part and parcel. The relation is one of the servant and the served. It is transcendental and is completely distinct from our from our experience in material existence. So we experience so many things here, but the experience of the relationship with Krishna is totally distinct from all material pleasures. This relation of servant and the served is the most congenial form of intimacy. One can realize it as devotional service progresses. Everyone should engage himself in that transcendental loving service of the Lord. Even in the present conditioned state of material existence, that will gradually give one the clue to actual life and please him to complete satisfaction. Savai pumsam parodharmo yato bhaktiraho sajayai tukiya patiyataya yatma sudasidati. The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. So we can become somewhat satisfied, because we're not completely satisfied, because we still have some motivation or we still have some interruption in our service to Krishna. But once we come to the point of uninterrupted, continuous, satatam kirtayam dhammam, chanting always chanting my glories. Once we don't stop, Prabhupada says 24 hours a day chanting. Once we come to that platform and we're not motivated by anything material, then the self will be completely satisfied. We're partially satisfied, but not completely. So any comments or questions? Or questions or comments? Yes, Jonathan.
I heard Srila Prabhupada say that the Vedas are filled with seemingly contradictions.
Yes.
And here we're being told that there's no happiness.
We're being told what?
There's no happiness in material existence.
Right.
But in the fifth canto, there's a description of one Maya Danava, who's described as the greatest demon in the universe right now. He's empowered and protected by Lord Shiva. He has unlimited material happiness.
Okay, so that means he's not happy. It doesn't. He has material happiness, or someone else may have material happiness. It's not making him happy. It's an illusion. It's temporary, unlimited, temporary. I think the word unlimited in that sense simply means you can't estimate how much he has. Like material happiness means money, followers, woman. I mean, this material happiness, he may have all that, but it doesn't make him happy. It's like in the material world here, we have people with so much money. Really, so much money, and generally, if you have a lot of money, you can have these other things. But then we see that they commit suicide. Some of these people. Why do they commit suicide if they have all this material happiness? So they're not really happy. Yes.
We had
Can't hear you.
we had a Pujari in Boston back in '76. Paliyita Das. He grew up in Sao Paulo, Brazil. His family was millionaires, all his friends were millionaires. They all had beautiful bodies and artistic talents. He said that every Saturday morning they were in the psychiatrist's office.
Well, they got the money. Yeah, but material happiness is not real happiness. Really, people who have, you know, if we kind of think, if I had this, I'll be happy, okay? If I had billion, then I could be happy. If you had $1 billion and you see you're not happy, then what else is there? What else is it? If I had what? I already got everything and I'm not happy. So then, what's the use? So then you're not, of course, most millionaires don't commit suicide. Most people don't commit suicide. But people in all walks of life commit suicide because they're not happy. At least we think, and when I say we, the average person, think that if I had this, I can be happy. So they know that they're not happy, but they think they can be. And then when you get it and you're still not happy, then what is there to look forward to now? And so material happiness it's not real happiness. It doesn't last. I mean, everyone is attracted to it who is conditioned. So we're all attracted to that, thinking that will ultimately, I would like it. But even if I had it, at least philosophically, I can understand it's not going to satisfy me. You can't be satisfied. It's like a fish out of water. You give it everything. What do you give it? You give it pearls. You give it other jewels. Give it money. Give it the best Cuban cigar. You give it everything. You give it a nice bed. You give it a water bed. I mean, you know what water beds are?
Yeah.
You give it a water bed. And you push it, make it go up in there. You're not going to be happy because he's in a foreign atmosphere. The only thing that makes that fish happy is put him back in the water. And even if he doesn't have all these other things, he's happy. I mean, as happy as he could be. I don't know how happy a fish is. So we're a soul, and we're in a foreign atmosphere. In this body, in this material world, we're not material. We're spiritual. So no matter what we get, it doesn't really make us happy. You can even be the big controller of this whole universe, Brahma. Brahma, he may be happy because he's, thinking of Krishna, he's Krishna conscious. But even without Krishna consciousness, having all these things he's not going to be happy. Even this earth, okay, the most powerful country today, they still believe is the United States. I don't know, greatest country. I don't know. I'm just saying because people think that for a long time. That's why even Prabhupada came here. Because if people in this country become Krishna conscious, then everybody's trying to follow America and then they'll become Krishna conscious. But people in this country, even though it's supposed to be the greatest country, and then you become the leader of this country, you become the president, and you think our president is happy. You can't be happy. Even if you become the greatest leader of the greatest country, you're still not happy at all. Probably more unhappy. Can't do anything. And even if you became a really great person, not necessarily the president, but really great in this country, can control so many things, like the richest person in the country, you're still not going to be happy. You may imagine that you would be, but you won't be. You can't become happy and satisfied by being in this foreign atmosphere and getting all the different things that you might think will make you happy in this foreign atmosphere. So we have to try to surrender to Krishna, uninterrupted, at least work on that. It's hard to change whatever motivates you, but actually what I saw in my own personal life is if I saw I was being motivated materially, not materially, like materially in the sense that I would like to not just get, go back to Godhead, but I'd also want my family to go back to Godhead. Now my family, I'm thinking of my family, that's just material. So it may not be completely pure devotional service, but if that even motivates me to surrender to Krishna, then that's good. Whatever gets me to surrender to Krishna is good. Okay, any other questions? Someone else had a question.
I wanted to ask about this. There's a line that states this is the most.
Talk louder.
So towards the end of the purport, it says that this is the most congenial form of intimacy. This relation of servant and the served is the most congenial form of intimacy. What exactly does that mean?
Well, it also says as you experience devotional service, as you advance more, then you get to see this or realize it. I think because you can actually see how Krishna is reciprocating, how Krishna is doing all these things for you, and it's very wonderful, intimate relationship. It's you and Krishna, and how he's doing these things to please you, and then you become more inspired to do things to please him. Or you're doing things to please him, even though you don't think you're doing anything or not much. But he's then does things to please you, and then you want to reciprocate more. I think that your relationship with Krishna becomes a more conscious thing, how you see Krishna is actually doing these things for you. So, because you surrendered, even though you don't think you surrendered, I didn't do anything, but he still reciprocates. So I don't know, it says something also about that in time or something.
Yeah, it says it's up there. This relation of servant and the served is the most congenial form of intimacy. One can realize it as devotional service progresses.
Right. So your answer will come in time. Yeah.
Prabhupada, that statement is followed by a few lines on the top where Srila Prabhupada say that each and every living being has his eternal form in the spiritual existence. Like in Golok Vrindavan, Gopa boys don't say the prayers like we say, and they don't ring the bell. They are eating and Krishna takes from their mouth. So that form of intimacy is there because those Gopa boys are in their eternal spiritual form.
That's really advanced. Yeah.
So
And
once
of course, you can have, with Radha and Krishna, or gopis and Krishna.
So once the living entity gets to his or her spiritual form, then that level of intimacy is achieved in the service.
Where is this? Let me see.
So the last paragraph.
Okay, we have purposely donated dollar occupation to Buddha being, which sustains a living being's sustenance of existences to coordinate his activities in his eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Krishna is the central pivot of living beings, and he is the all attractive living entity or eternal form amongst all the beings. Okay, anyway, I'll have to stick with, we'll just stick with this progress, and eventually you'll know what most congenial form of intimacy. But one can realize it as devotional service progresses. When we come to the point of, we actually do come to the point, we're supposed to come to the point of understanding what our eternal relationship with Krishna is. Like I'm a gopi or I'm a cowherd boy. And then when you come to that, then you follow in the footsteps of someone. Like if I'm a gopi, I could follow in the footsteps of one of the gopis, or if I'm a parent of Krishna, I could follow in the footsteps of Mother Yashoda or Nanda Maharaj, or a friend of Krishna, I could follow in the footsteps of one of Krishna's friends. So we come to that platform, which is a really, really, really advanced platform. And I think it's important to know that just my feeling like I'm this or I'm that doesn't mean I am. You know, like I feel like I'm a cowherd boy because I like to play. Doesn't mean I'm a cowherd boy. I don't know what I am. But that you come to the point where you actually know. So I know a lot of people that's called sahajiya, where I think I'm more advanced than I actually am. Where I know I'm a gopi, and I start, because I know a gopi is the highest, and that's what I want to be, because I want to be the highest. So therefore I try to start acting like a gopi, go home, put on my wife's saris.
Jiva Mataji will not like it.
What?
Jiva Mataji will not like it.
I should just look the other way. So we shouldn't be artificial. If we're not sure, it means we're not at that platform. So, and of course, if we actually did know that, if I knew I was a gopi, I wouldn't be doing that. Anyway, I would just be trying to serve Krishna, trying to please Krishna, trying to serve the other gopis, trying to do what's most pleasing for Krishna. What?
In that regard, Nectar of Devotion, where Rupa Goswami describes the sahajiya, and he describes that even if one realizes himself in this process, he never reveals that.
Yeah.
He just continues following the orders of the spirit of the master as long as the body exists.
Yeah, that's what happened one time with, not exactly that, but similar, where the devotee told Srila Prabhupada that when I see these pictures of, Krishna and the gopis, I see that they're actually alive, they're actually moving, and I see that it's the spiritual world. And Prabhupada said, that is first class, but telling about it, that's 10th class. So if you're really on that platform, you don't just start telling people. It's personal. It's just between you and Krishna. Okay. So do we have someone? What?
There's one more instance where a devotee came to Srila Prabhupada and told him that when I chant, I see these moving images, and he was trying to sound like a little.
Well, he said, I see all these beautiful colors, and it's just like melting into one another, and it's just, yeah.
And Prabhupada said, keep chanting, it will go away.
Yes.
In the purport, it says the Vedas prescribe two different types of occupation.
Yes.
Path of sense enjoyment and other is path of renunciation.
Yes.
So my question is, why Vedas did not prescribe?
Why what?
Why Vedas even prescribe the path of sense enjoyment.
Well, it's also comes, even by the sense enjoyment, it comes to renunciation. Like for instance, I'll give a personal example with myself. We went, when we were in Boston, and like in the early 70s, 72, 73, we did traveling Sankirtan, and we just lived in a van. So one day, the temple, they purchased things in bulk, so we took also with us a big box of dates, and we just ate dates. And now I don't really like dates. At the time I liked it. I ate so many dates, I don't want to see another date. I just don't. So you can renounce things by overindulging in them. Like for instance, the problem with that is, you like chocolate chip cookies, so you eat, hundreds and hundreds of chocolate chip cookies, and then finally you just don't ever want to eat them again. But then there's ginger snaps, or there's some other kind of cookies. So it really is really difficult to ultimately give up everything on that process, but it is a process. And if you overdo it in one thing, you finally have enough, and you're not attracted to it anymore. So that's a process, but it's not very practical. You'd have to live an awful long time to give everything up, to experience everything. But there are two paths, and you not just live a long time, maybe you'll continue in your next life. Even eating, you like to eat, but just try to eat and eat and eat and eat, you just don't want to eat anymore. You can't, not only you can't just then you see it, it's not very good. You overdo it, whatever it is. Someone makes you do it. Something you like, think of something you like, and you try to, and do it so much where you don't like it anymore. It works a little bit the opposite too, though. When you die, it's told, like when you die, and for instance, if you got to take birth, you got to take birth as a hog. Before you take birth as a hog, first you eat stool, and you eat it, and it's so bad, it's so disgusting, and eventually, after a while, when you finally like it, then you take birth as a hog. I've heard that too. So you can develop a taste. Sometimes, just like I'll give an example that, what's that stuff called? Is it called black salt? What's this? There's some spice or something that you put in, Indians put into.
Black salt.
What?
Black salt.
Is it black salt?
Black salt. Yeah, black salt.
Yeah. And it's really, when I first had it, it was horrible. And what was really horrible is, I remember being with this devotee, Indian, was, this is the best, you're going to like this so much. It was like, he was saying how fantastic this was, so I was thinking it's going to be good, and then I had it. It was like I felt like throwing up. But gradually, now I like it. As long as it's not a real lot, but I really do. It really is. It's a quiet taste. But sometimes you can acquire a taste too. But that is, it's true. You can acquire a taste, and you'll also get sick of something by overdoing it. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I don't know, it's a mixed question and a comment. Since we are practicing sadhana bhakti right now, we are not at the pure devotional stage. So the thing is, here it says that the thing what Pyari Mohan Prabhu said,
congenial,
the
most
relation
congenial.
of servant and the served is the most congenial form. So that's what Prabhupada has asked us to be in the mood of serving always. serving the deities, serving the Vaishnavas. So we are not trying to be taking the ownership or anything, but we are trying to serve, being the servant of the servant of the servant. And sometimes we forget that. So how we can always remember to be Dasanudas?
Okay. Well, I'm thinking it's a question and a comment. What's the question I got? What's the comment?
Comment is Prabhupada asked us to be servant, in the servant mood, like always serving.
Okay, so how do we always become the servant?
Yeah, like
I would say just practice. That's all. That's what we have to do. We have to constantly, whenever we remember or we see that we're now trying to be the master and have people serve us. There are some devotees, I mean, in our line, disciplic succession, who won't accept service from anybody. You know, anybody. Even Bhakti Siddhanta, it says he never asked anyone to do anything for him personally. He never asked anyone. You know, not get a glass of water. You know, don't get anything. He never asked. But they just, the devotees would just do it. He would accept their service if they did it, but he never asked them to do anything for him personally. So we should try to be like that. Instead of asking people to do stuff for us, we shouldn't ask. And we try to serve others. It says that if there's somebody that you don't like or you're envious of, that you should serve them. So, if anybody is envious of me,
in regard to the spiritual identity, Prabhupada does write purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that generally anyone who's attracted to this movement of Lord Chaitanya's will discover their identity as a young Manjari, a young Gopi girl. That's actually written. But I heard him in a lecture describing that another name of Krishna is Anubhav, which means this identity will be revealed to you.
Yeah.
You can't generate it yourself.
Right. But that's the problem, revealed to you. And some people think, because they think that you know, they imagine it's revealed. I mean, we really have to know what the difference of what our mind is saying and, in one sense, what our heart is saying, or what Krishna is saying, what our consciousness is. What, you know, let your conscience be your guide. Because our mind can tell us so many bad things, and we can accept it as a, you know, as a reality, and then we're in illusion. It's insanity. It's insane. So I remember in the beginning of this movement, there was people who all thought we were crazy, and I remember when I first saw the devotees, I thought they were nuts, you know, but because they looked crazy, you know, wearing these things, they shave their heads and they're dancing around in the street. So it's kind of a conclusion people may come to, and Prabhupada had this pamphlet made, or the devotees made the pamphlet, but I think Prabhupada did, and it was titled, "Who's Crazy?" You know, and who's crazy? These people or these others? You know, either us or them. Who's crazy? They're crazy because they're thinking there's something they're not. That's a real crazy. You know, people in a crazy house, if you think you're somebody you're not, you know, there's you know, I'm Abraham Lincoln, or I'm George Washington, or I'm Napoleon, and you start acting like that, thinking that's crazy. So even thinking you're this body, that's crazy, because you're not. You're a spirit soul. So we can't listen to our minds. We have to at least see the distinction between our heart or our conscience or Krishna is telling us something. When Krishna is telling us something and when our mind is telling us something, how do we know which is which? Anybody have any idea?
How do you leave chapter 10, text 12? Prabhupada describes that the order of the spiritual masters is the active principles in the spiritual life. So if you always situate yourself acting on the instruction or the order of the spiritual master, you've got a good chance of understanding the rights.
Yeah, well, if you're acting on the order of the spiritual master, of course you're rightly situated. But I think one way to tell whether it's your mind, because even if you're acting on the order of the spiritual master tells you to distribute books, and you're distributing books. But even within that, there's a lot of whether I should do this or I should do that. You know, like should I go inside the mall? Should I distribute? It's illegal, but I do it anyway. You know, and there's always what we read about just recently, the perplexities. That there's all these perplexities that you get free from perplexities by the material world is full of perplexities, and by approaching the spiritual master, you become free from these perplexities. So what is a perplexity? It's like, I don't know if I should do this or I should do that. But when you actually surrender to Krishna, you know what you should do. There's no question, should I do this or should I do that? You know you should surrender to Krishna, but even within surrendering to Krishna, there's choices to make. And those who are fully surrendered, pure devotees, they know what to do in every instance. Those who are not pure like us, we can know what Krishna wants, but sometimes we have to really, really, really try hard to know what Krishna wants. But if in the material world we make it, we base it on what? I don't know. There's no real basis of anything. You don't really know what to do and what not to do. So the difference between the mind, one of the differences, like you're saying, the spiritual master, is if you're thinking something, it has to also be backed up by scripture, by the guru, and past sadhus. You know, this is how we can make a decision. Whether even that may not necessarily mean that it's what we should do, but at least we know if it's against scriptures, like Krishna is telling me to kill these people, and that's not against scriptures because he told Arjuna to kill these people. So he's telling me to kill these people. But now, you know, ask your guru if you should kill these people. So we have some checks and balances. You know, so you might imagine things, but it may be just your mind. And you know, so that, I mean, that's an obvious thing. We should, I don't think anybody's, I hope, not thinking that we should kill anybody. But we do try to kill the demoniac mentality, but not the person. In this age, we just try to kill the demoniac mentality. Yes.
Or we can recite and chant the Acharya's prayers, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he is saying, Dustamana tumi kishore Vaishnav. Oh Dusta mind, what kind of Vaishnav you are? Prastisthartare Vaishnavera ghare. You pretend to be a Vaishnava, just trying to take, you know, the respect. And then Narottam Das Thakur says, Hari Hari Vifale Janama Gunainu Manusya Janama Paya Radha Krishna Na Bhajiya Janiya Suniya Vishakhainu. That means all these people who have got this human form of life, including ourselves, and if we are not chanting the names of Radha and Krishna, that means knowingly, willingly we are taking the poison. So when devotees or non-devotees say that they are mad or they are insane, or we just see that are we chanting the names of Radha Krishna, are we serving them? If yes, saved. If not, that means knowingly we are in wrong path.
Yes. Well, you mentioned kind of two different things, but they're both, of course, true. But I think we're talking about more the first one, where then your mind, even if you're serving Krishna, and your mind tells you how good you're doing, and you're doing so much better than this other person. I mean, not that they're not doing anything, but they don't do that much. And I do so much more. And even the quality of my service is a lot better.
So there one check comes, we can check like, are whatever we are doing, are the devotees, see, because nothing will attract devotees except the humility. Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi shahishnuna amanina manadena kirtanya sadhari. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that Gaudiya Vaishnavas put this verse as a garland in their neck, and they should feel like oneself very humble. And other Vaishnavas should also see him in the same way, that even though he has so much, still he is so humble.
I disagree with one thing. You said that devotees are only attracted if you're humble. The devotees are also attracted, even the devotees who are not so humble, but they give really good classes, and sometimes devotees are attracted to them. Not all devotees. Without humility, I don't find it so attractive generally, but I know some devotees who give good classes but are not humble, and so many people are attracted to them. So it's not just humility that people are attracted to.
The true devotee, the real devotee will never get attracted towards, because that is one way to check that, because some people can come and give crores of rupees, $1 million as a donation, and then and then and then he can advertise everywhere that such and such donation I have given.
Yeah.
That can never attract the Lord. And
no, it doesn't attract the Lord.
Yeah.
But it attracts
and it will never attract a pure devotees also.
Yeah, but it attracts.
So, in other words, Lord and devotees are attracted by the humility.
Yes. It's not very attractive. I went to the Toronto temple, and there was this devotee I knew he was the president of Chicago, and he was an Indian man. He's a Prabhupada disciple, and he was doing a really lousy job in being the temple president, and everyone in the temple, everybody living in the temple wanted him out. And everybody. And these are all really surrendered devotees. It's not that they wanted him out because he's making them surrender. And he didn't want to leave. He wouldn't give it up. He wouldn't give up his position. And then eventually GBCs got involved and they replaced him. Then I went to Toronto, and this big, huge Singhasan, with the altar for the deities, all hand-carved, beautiful. And I see there's a plate on the Singhasan saying that this was donated by this same person. He was a very rich man. And he donated, and I was very impressed that, wow, he's doing really good. And then I talked to Pyari Mohan Prabhu and saying, that's really nice that this person had donated this. He said he did it under the condition that we put the plaque there saying that he donated it. And then it really lost a lot. It's like, what's the use? You donated only under that condition that everybody knows you donated. That's not the way you... So, even myself, I was not attracted. I thought he's just the same person. He hasn't changed at all. I thought he changed. But anyway, I don't. I obviously, to do things just to be noticed, most devotees really see right through that. We had another lady who sang very nice, but she just thought she was the best and she didn't want anyone else to even sing, and she just wanted to do it all the time, and people really saw through it. Everybody saw through it, and she was trying to show how great devotee she was, and no one in the whole temple was impressed with how great it was. Also, as just extremely neophyte devotee, just trying to show how great she was. So most of the time, people are not attracted by that. And humility, even if a person can't do much of anything, if he's really humble, it's really attractive because it's genuine. But even when you're humble, then then the next thing Maya is going to tell you how you're just so much humbler than everyone else. It doesn't let up. Maya's always going to try to get you to be in Maya. So even if you're really humble, then you're the humblest, and compare with others. This person's kind of humble too, but doesn't even come close to my humility.
Yadunandan Prabhu gave so much.
Who?
Yadunandan Prabhu gave so much, but he never did any show
Yes.
off. So it's like you want to come into everybody's notice, or you want to come into Krishna's notice.
Right. That's a really good example. Yadunandan, who's basically paid for this temple, he did so many things for so many devotees, and until he passed away, till he died, nobody even knew these things. And then people mentioned it. He did this thing. Nobody knew it. And he never wanted anybody to say anything he's ever done for anybody. That's really humble. That's really humble. Like most people, you kind of want, it's nice that other people know that I did something good. I want some recognition, put my name there at least, like when you have a list of donors. And then someone else may want to be anonymous. Now, even wanting to be anonymous, why do you want to be anonymous? I want to be anonymous so I look better to the few people who know. So it's really tricky. It's really so we have to, it's not a big deal for known or not known. It doesn't matter. We have to be more like that. But Maya is definitely going to always try to get in, sneak in any way she can.
Because all the philosophies, all the Bhagavatam, everything which we are trying to learn, Maya knows in and out. She has already.
Yes. Yes. She studied the course. She knows the whole Bhagavatam. She knows it all, so she knows what we're going to do. Yeah. It's even like in the war. There was in the Germans. There was this German tank guy. I don't remember, Ramis or something. Ramis. Anybody know him? Second World War. He was like really good with the tanks, and he had his tank crew, and he could figure out. He was like really good. They would like destroy all the other tanks and stuff. And so he had written a book. So the enemies, of course, they read the book. They read the book so they can figure out what his strategy is, so they can learn about him, so they can, kill him, destroy him. So similarly, as that Maya, she knows the Bhagavatam, she knows all these things, so she knows what we're going to think, what we're going to move, so then she can fight back. She studied, she did her job, now we got to do our job. So how do you not get influenced by Maya?
Association of devotees. When we are in association of all sincere devotees, like-minded devotees, like dear friend, Bharat Maharaj. So Bharat Maharaj was powerful devotee. He know in and out of Shastra. But when he saw the deer in a helpless condition, he got attached, to the deer. He wanted to personally serve and take care and get carried away there. If any one of the devotees are there, he was in association, he say, hey Bharat, you are simply spending so much time on deer, come out, we have so many other things to do. And he could have been pulled out.
Keep you from
Yeah, so like in temple, like when we go here and there, you pull us so many times. We don't like it, but still, you do it.
That's why I do
it. Especially we are mopping the floor and you come and say that this is not the way to do it. You have to do like this. It crushes, like. It's just one example. There are so many other things. So this is the association, like. Same thing. If we are alone, we will be. Maya will kick us here and there, and she said, "Oh, you are the best sweeper in the world. You are sweeping in Golok. You can directly go and sweep in Golok Vrindavan in front of Krishna." But here it's opposite. We do something, not say, "What you're doing?" Something is missed here. You can see.
I would say you could sweep in Golok Vrindavan because there's no dirt.
There's no dust.
But here there is.
And so, like, it's a power of association.
I know association is definitely, but the way to keep Maya away is by being Krishna conscious. If Prabhupada explains that if you're full with Krishna, then there's no room for Maya. Obviously, there are things to stay full with Krishna, and association with devotees will help keep you in check when you go too far. And Bhakti Maharaj, he didn't do anything wrong. He helped this deer. The deer was a baby deer, and he brought it. But then he became attached. It's not like when he saw a baby deer, he was attached. He wasn't attached. He was just trying to help the deer. But then as he helped the deer, he became like the deer's mother. The deer was old to him, and then that's when he should have checked it. Say, okay, forget this here. Let the deer go on its own. I ain't gonna play with this stupid deer anymore. I got better things to do. And if somebody was there, they would have said, Bhakti Maharaj, you gave up the whole world, you gave up your beautiful wife, you gave up your children, and now you're becoming attached to this stupid deer. Let's just get back to your meditation, and then he would have realized it. It's true. So association with devotees is the most important thing in devotional service. It's the most important because that keeps us on track, whether we like it or not.
Anyone who thinks that he can be Krishna conscious or he can be a devotee by isolation bhajan or he can go to a isolated place is actually madness or insane. That is not
puffed up. Something wrong with him. We had one person, I forget his name, but I was there in Chicago. Prabhupada, he gave him. He was going to die supposedly in 6 months. He had 6 months left to live. And so the devotees asked Srila Prabhupada because he wanted him to take Vajananandi and just chant, like 64 rounds a day, and that's whatever Vajananandi. So Prabhupada did it because the devotees asked him. But when Prabhupada did it, he said, because the doctors said you will die within 6 months, we will give you this, but anyway, he didn't die within 6 months, and he didn't stick with his whole bhajan either, because it's like, we're not really qualified. It takes a certain person, very rare person, even in Bhakti Siddhanta, if you read about Bhaktisiddhanta's disciples, they were so surrendered. They were really, really surrendered. It makes, and when you look at Prabhupada's disciples, they were so surrendered, but they don't even compare to the way Bhaktisiddhanta's disciples were surrendered. It seems like it's, the surrender is maybe, I don't know when it's going to end, but it's, it seems like we're losing some. But anyway, with Bhaktisiddhanta Swami's disciples, what was the point I was going to make? What were we talking about again?
Bhajanandi.
One person, like it was Krishna Das, I think his name was Krishna Das, he was chanting all the time, chanting. So the devotees complained to Bhaktisiddhanta that he doesn't do any service. He just chants, that's it. And Bhaktisiddhanta told him to put an ad in the paper that anyone who wants to chant all day long, and we will feed them and we'll give them a place to stay if they just want to chant. And a lot of people came, and then after they did it, they just couldn't do it, and then they have to leave. And then Bhaktisiddhanta said, how this devotee, this Krishna Das, he can do it, and nobody else can do it. He's also the one that, when Prabhupada was taking his sannyas initiation, Narayan Maharaj was a disciple of one of Prabhupada's godbrothers, and he was doing the initiations, and this other devotee, Prabhupada's godbrother, I think it was Krishna Das, was there, and he was chanting japa, and Narayan Maharaj asked him to stop chanting, and Prabhupada said, keep chanting, keep chanting. So he kept chanting, and it's something that not everyone can do, and most of us cannot do. We'd like to be able to do it. And then even Prabhupada said, "What will you do? You go to Vrindavan, go to the forest and chant Hare Krishna. You simply be thinking of woman." It's like, so what's the use? Let's face it. Let's engage. Let's try to use our senses in Krishna's service. By sweeping and mopping properly. Okay, we get off our bases to Srila Prabhupada.